John Morgan and Dan Tom here with a very difficult assignment in Honolulu, Hawaii, where Bellator is stacking it up with back-to-back events on back-to-back nights, and honestly, some fantastic cards. Dan Tom, let's start with Friday night, Bellator 212, the rematch. Lightweight champ Brent Primus puts his title on the line against the man he beat to get it, Michael Chandler. Can lightning strike twice here? What are we going to see in this fight?
Well, I think lightning will be striking. I don't know which side, though. I mean, the odds are pretty favoring the challenger, who lost the last fight, of course. That was Chandler, but man, I'm excited for this one. I think fire maybe over lightning is the descriptor there.
I think the big question is, was this a fluke? Brent Primus is trying to say, look, you know, those leg kicks that I threw them with intent, okay?
Yeah.
I knew what I was doing here. Do you feel that first result, when you go back and watch it, was fluky in any way, or did we just see that maybe Brent Primus is a better fighter than we thought?
I don't think fluky is the right word. You could characterize it as strange, but either way, I don't think we should take away credit from the champion, Brent Primus, here. If you look at the footage, he actually lands the leg kick, and it looks like a pretty fairly normal leg kick. Unfortunately, we all know the story. Michael Chandler cramped up, and now it's left for speculation, you know, especially after Henry Cejudo's fight with Demetrius Johnson, where he cited a similar injury, and we were able to see him work through it. So a lot of questions that are going to be answered with this one.
Yeah, fantastic fight. You know, that's that low calf kick now that is so in vogue in all of MMA because of this fight. All right, co-main event, Javier Ayala versus Frank Mir. Interesting. I want you to talk me through the psychology of this. Frank Mir this week kind of revealing that his daughter, his teenage daughter, who thinks is going to be a professional fighter at some point, is going to be in his corner. Now, I think on paper, you know, Frank Mir looks like the better fighter in this fight, but the psychology of having a loved one, having your daughter in the corner, does that change the way this fight feels for you at all?
I'll be honest, I was worried about it initially, right? I mean, where's his head at? Are we enjoying the moment too much out here in Hawaii? But, you know, at the press conference, you know, his little media scrum, it really turned me around, Frank Mir. And it was particularly saying that it's going to be hard to beat him with his own kid in his corner. And he characterized it in a much more scary and violent way than I can, folks. So go check that out. But that actually turned me there, and we're seeing it. Frank talked about it, you know. It's making him come in better shape. We're seeing a slimmer Frank Mir. So I like it now.
Yeah, it's a big fight for Frank Mir. He needs to get a win. Yes. He needs to get a win. All right, other people on the undercard, you know, AJ McKee is on there, a guy that looks like he could be a title challenger. You got Tywin Claxton weighed in on the prelims. Is it one of those guys or anybody else that stands out to you on the prelims of this card?
Great names there. I expect some performances either way in those bouts. But I'm actually looking at the opener for the night after.
Well, let's go straight to Saturday night.
Okay,
let's do that because you're right. I mean, the Hawaiian crowd, we've never seen it. It's been 10 years since a major MMA promotion has been here. This is my first time in Hawaii for an MMA event, and you kicked it off there, right, with Kona and Nainoa, the locals that are going to be kicking off the main card on Saturday night. They brought fire, and we've been hearing it all week long that some of these rivalries between these kind of local fighters that maybe people aren't expecting, that people don't know, they might end up being the highlights of this. What is it about the culture here, these rivalries that set things off?
Well, we heard Alima Leigh McFarland touch on it a little bit in her scrum, but really, you know, Scott Coker was talking about the old Rumble and the Rock shows that used to happen out here, and if you go watch some of those for you hardcores out there, you'll know that the camera actually went off the fights. You know, even when Gracie was fighting Penn, it didn't matter. The camera was going out and panning to the audience for crowd fights. That is a worry that actually locals have brought up, like the champ I just said, Alima Leigh. So that's going to be interesting for sure.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking forward to an exciting atmosphere. The co-main event that night, we're seeing the debut of Lyoto Machida. He's fighting a former champion, Rafael Carvalho. Give me a breakdown on this, because Rafael Carvalho is still a very relevant fighter, a very tough fighter. Lyoto Machida, 40 years old, but of course keeps himself in great shape. I mean, he still looks to be a physical specimen as well. Does Lyoto Machida still have what it takes to compete at a high level, and how is this fight going to go?
Here's why this matchup is a sleeper, because you're right, he is 40, but he's still looking good. He looked very healthy, he was moving very well at the open workouts, but Carvalho's a striker, and this is going to be a striking match. And not only is he a striker, he's a southpaw striker, and if you look at Machida's record, it's very mixed. He's 3-3 over his career with southpaws. At one point, he lost to 3 southpaws in a row, so it's going to be real interesting. I want to see what Carvalho has for him. He comes from that very underrated camp, Evalu Kautai with Vanderlei Silva, Francisco Trinaldo. So I'm really excited. That's a sleeper one. Expect a big performance either way. Big movement there.
And then, of course, the main event, women's flyweight champion Alima Leigh McFarland puts her belt on the line in her native state, Hawaii. She's bringing in Valerie Letourneau, the Canadian challenger, who looks a heck of a lot better at 125 than she did in her run at 115 in the UFC. The talk all this week has been what the pressure has been like. I mean, you had BJ Penn begging for the UFC to come here. You had Max Holloway begging for the UFC to come here. Instead, it's Alima Leigh McFarland that has to fill those big shoes of being the main event, of being a headliner, being the local. Yeah. Give me your take. I mean, do you think the pressure, because she doesn't seem to be fading yet. She seems to be enjoying the moment, but will it be too much in that electric atmosphere on Saturday night?
The facial expression I gave you when you brought this up kind of sums it up for me, is because I'm almost sweating for the champion here. I did pick the champion to come out on top, but it's no easy fight at all. And I was actually surprised to see the champion favored. I figured the challenger, Valerie Letourneau, a more experienced fighter, more proven overall. We know what we're getting from Val. She's been in there with Joanna Jędrzejczyk and went 5 rounds. So I'm really shocked to see those betting lines, and it's actually making my interest even more higher going into this fight Saturday.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be a big card. And then, of course, you got the welterweight Grand Prix with Ed Ruth, who's a dark horse in that tournament against Neiman Gracie. You got King Mo in there versus Liam McGeary. Some fantastic fights. Any highlights that stand out to you as a moment or a person that you're most going to keep your eye on that evening, other than, of course, as you said, those scrappy Hawaiians, the 19 and the 20-year-old that are kicking off the main card?
Well, you just said King Mo, and you know, I'll be honest. There's so much talent stacked this weekend. I almost overlooked that matchup by my own mistake. And in the presser just now, King Mo is already stating his plans to go back up to heavyweight after this, and had some choice words from Matt Mitrione. It almost stacks the deck for him to get past McGeary. It's a really important fight for Mo and McGeary. So I got more excited after the presser for that one in particular.
I agree. A lot of big fights on the lineup in 2 nights. Bellator 212 Friday night. That is the Salute the Troops event, so that should be a cool atmosphere to have all the military in it. That's going to be on Paramount. And then, of course, Bellator 213 Saturday night on DAZN. Lots of big fights in Bellator. Lots of fun here in Hawaii. Stick it to MMA Junkie all week long. We'll keep you covered.